Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 137 of Gaston's Great. Well, we're already having fun laughing at myself. As you know, Gaston's Great is a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long. We are coming to you once again from the worldwide headquarters of GSM Services. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We are highlighting another great organization this week with, I want to say, Mite.org. Is that correct? Okay. Yes, we have Madison Ilgis and Scott Toll with us today. Madison is the executive director, and Scott is the president and founder of the organization. And I think they're related a little bit. Is that correct?
Are.
Okay.
We are indeed, yeah.
Madison, Scott, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that.
Well, you're very welcome. So, as usual, we're going to get right to it. And something we'd like to do just before we getting in detail talking about the organization. First question is, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I'll start with you, Madison. Anything you'd like to share before we start talking about the great work you guys are doing?
Okay, well, my name's Madison. I live in Charlotte with my husband, newly married.
8 months.
And 8 months, so brand new. Got married at my parents' home. This is my dad, Scott.
Fantastic guy.
Yes, my husband is wonderful.
Yes.
And I was born in Georgia, small town, Valdosta. My dad could probably talk more about that, but he moved our family up to Charlotte, Belmont area, really Cramerton, whenever I was 1. So
Okay.
I've been familiar with Gastonia, Belmont, Charlotte, basically my whole life, and went to school in Barcelona, Spain, did my undergrad in business there. And then whenever I was
That's pretty unique.
When I was 23, I believe, when I graduated, I came back home and went from project director to executive director at Mite shortly after that.
Okay.
So, yes.
Well, very good. We appreciate that.
So,
Scott, what about you, sir?
Yeah. My name is Scott Toll. As Madison mentioned, we've been here for about 23, 24 years.
Long enough to be a Gaston County-ian?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. A Gastonian, yeah. All that time we have worked out of Belmont, North Carolina, and my brother and I have started several businesses and bought some mills in that area. And we have 7 kids. My wife and I have 7 kids. Madison is number 3. And all our kids except for one live in the region as well. A couple of them work with me, including Madison. And yeah, that's it.
All right.
Big family.
Yeah, big family.
Yeah. My 3 that I was talking about earlier just got crushed by the 7.
Honestly, they normally do. We don't meet that many families with that many kids.
Again, it's a couple of unique things I heard there. So, again, remembering the whole point here is what can we share about Mite? And the first thing is I'm sure there are some listeners that probably have heard of it or might be familiar with it, but frankly, I wasn't. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to ask is some of these questions I'll direct to one or the other, but this is probably for both of you. Just what is Mite? What's the mission? And then we'll go from there.
Okay. So you want me to start?
Yeah.
So this is one of the things we do. I tend to talk over Madison a lot, so
I
make
pitch
sure.
in.
Okay.
I keep him in line.
So we just make sure. I want to make sure.
So he talks and you straighten it out.
Exactly.
All right.
Because I know nothing. Mite is a donor services charity. We're an organization that serves donors. It is built upon the inspiration that donors should have the opportunity to understand what happens with their contribution.
Sure.
Right? They should see the end result. It is a multinational organization in terms of we're small in terms of our operations, but we're very large in terms of our scope. So we go to all areas of the world and been in the way back in Indonesia, everywhere. And so it has a very global reach to it, but it's also very, very personal and very small. So what you'll find from Mite is that every single project that we do, every one of our donors, no matter the size of gift, will have exposure to that project that's beyond what you would normally feel outside of a local
Right.
nonprofit. So we might do something in Pakistan, and you're going to see on a monthly basis, you're going to see stories coming out, you're going to see insights coming out, you're going to understand the reason why we're doing it, you're going to understand the reason why you gave. And then at the end of that, we're going to send a team in field, and this is something that's unique to us. Every single one of our projects, we send a team in that includes a videographer, a professional videographer. We shoot about 3 to 4 days of content, media content, and we will produce out of that content, we'll produce what we call a celebration video. And this is the faces and places aspect of our organization. We show you particularly the people that you're impacting and particularly the area that you're in. And so all of that revolves around this inspiration that donors, no matter the size of gift, they benefit from understanding where it goes. And our core values are inspiration, engagement, transparency or awareness, and celebration. And without that inspiration of seeing it, there's no engagement. And so you can't get re-engagement. And so what we've found is that with our donor base, we have a very high retention rate. And what we're finding with our donor base is that they appreciate understanding and knowing where their donations go. And therefore, they re-engage with us over and over again, not over a long term, but also more frequently during the year. So that's basically what we're doing. You want to elaborate on that?
No, you hit it.
I did good. Yeah.
All right.
You hit it.
We got to approve the thumbs up from the executive director.
That's exactly right.
So Madison, maybe I'll go to you so we don't let your dad hijack the whole
Amen.
podcast.
Amen.
Can you share a little bit about, I've been on the website and so I'm familiar with this particular one. Let's just talk about what inspired the name Mite. I think
Yeah.
that's a very interesting story.
Yeah. So I thought you were maybe going to get into the origination story of you.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
That's good.
But we can, I mean, I can hit on it a little bit, but really it's a generational thing because let's go way back before I was born. Or had I been born yet?
No, you weren't born.
I wasn't born yet. My dad was in, my grandfather, so I'm going to tell this story. I normally don't. He may have to correct me.
Go ahead.
My grandfather, who we called him Dappity, was a successful businessman. And this is a long story, but to shorten it, he committed that he would give 50% of everything he made by the time he died. And so within his last, I think, 10 years of his life, he essentially amassed a lot of wealth and gave a ton of it away. And back then, DAFs, donor advised funds, didn't exist.
Okay.
And so families created private family foundations. And my grandfather created the Good Shepherd's Trust Foundation, which is still around today and is now going on to the next generation. So my cousins are now on the board, which is super cool. My sister is. And my dad, whenever he married my mom, became the director of that foundation.
Okay.
And my dad's job, as he says it, he was a punk 23-year-old, 24-year-old, 25-year-old.
Yeah, still a punk.
And it was the best job ever because his job was to give away other people's money. His father's money, the family's money. And so they built orphanage and they did fantastic work. They supported ministries all around the world. And on one particular trip in Romania, Tolmaciu, Romania, my dad was there with my mom. We have photos of this event. And he was there, and they were consecrating, right?
We were christening.
Christening.
We were christening a new dining hall.
Christening a new dining hall.
At an orphanage.
At an orphanage.
About 150 kids.
Yeah, so lots of kids, big dining hall. And in order to celebrate and christen this dining hall, they decided to go down to the farmer's market and buy all of the watermelon and have a watermelon party. Yeah. So they went down to the farmer's market, loaded up the back of a pickup, and my dad was cutting the watermelon And they ended up having seed spitting contests. And we have photos of this back then. You know, they're really grainy and look very vintage.
But the stories, just for our listeners, the story's portrayed well on the website.
Yeah, it is. And so we have photos of this massive watermelon pieces as big as the kids' heads. And my dad said that in that moment, everything went quiet. He stopped cutting the watermelon. He looked around, and everything went silent. And I don't know if you guys have had like a Holy Spirit moment where you just like feel it on you. But he said that he had a Holy Spirit moment and the Lord just said, what about everybody else? The question, what about everybody else? And my dad realized in that moment that the Lord wasn't talking about what about other orphans or what about other people that need help. He was talking about what about other donors? What about people that are giving $10 a month or $15 and never see where their gift went? What about them? What do they get to see? And so, flash, move forward 20-something years.
I actually, at that point, I registered the name. The original name was Mite.
Oh, right, yeah.
This was mid-'90s. Everything was E, if you recall, Stephen.
Yeah,
Everything was
yeah.
E-Pet, E-Insurance, E. Yeah. So I did E-Mite. Mite was the seed. It was the seed bed of the idea of no matter the size of gift,
Right.
The most powerful gift ever in the history of generosity is the mite, because Jesus Christ made it that way.
Yeah.
That's really powerful if you really understand that. I put an E in front of it. So at any rate, the kids.
I don't know why.
The kids. Well, because it was E.
Yeah.
But the kids got rid of it in 2020, I think it was, or 19. I can't remember. But at any rate, the point being is that so it was based upon. It was based upon Mite. I registered the name, and then my wife and I had more kids. I came up here, started businesses, and kind of put it in the background. I shelved it. I understood this. I understood when I had the inspiration. I understood that God was going to do something to make it possible to bring every donor in field, and I knew that didn't involve airplanes, right? So something had to happen because I was carrying around a camcorder that you had to hold on your shoulder.
Oh, I remember those.
Yeah.
They had the VHS tapes, these things that you...
Yeah, exactly.
Neither do I.
Exactly. Life nowadays, so easy.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that's, I don't mean to hijack it, but that's kind of what had to develop. I mean, Steve Jobs had to do his deal with the iPhone, creating cameras into phones that were significantly better than anything I could carry around back then. Zuckerberg did his Facebook thing. Now I have channels to get out to people. Created apps. Apps were created. There were all kinds of technological developments that were created that allowed us to get the word to the donors. So in 2016...
Yeah, the very beginning, we came to him. I think it was actually my brother, Andrew.
Okay.
So one of the 7.
They were probably 1920.
Yeah. And just said, I think we said something like, Daddy, it's time. He had mentioned E-Mite multiple times, but, I think your kids, whenever they're 15, aren't thinking, let's start this thing. But Andrew was...
They're not even listening.
True.
They're watching. They're watching,
yes, but not even
but they might not be listening. Yes.
So Andrew came to him and just said, I think it's time. Let's start this thing. So they registered E-Mite Inc. as a nonprofit, 501c3, and that's how it started. But I did want to touch on one thing. You were talking about the mite. It's based on the widow's mite. Right. So the name, you guys probably know. We
briefly talked about that before you walked back in,
right.
And I just happened to be. I've just recently read that because I'm reading my wife and I are reading the Bible chronologically this year together.
Oh, cool!
And we just read. We're in the Gospels now.
Yeah.
And so we just recently read. Well, I said I just recently read that because I might be ahead.
He didn't want to mention that, but
no.
Okay, yeah.
I'm cheating. I'm 2 days ahead. Because we use the Bible app.
I feel like you get a
Bible
pass
app.
for that.
Yeah, I might be okay. Just make sure she doesn't listen to this episode.
But it is an incredible story.
It is. Okay.
And so that's what the name is based on.
Okay, that's a lot to unpack,
yes.
frankly. But it's. I love hearing those stories about how things occur because so many, my experience is so many great organizations like yours or things that happen to help others, it's typically one or two people often that just has an idea or something, an event happens like you described, you know, and then, and I also believe probably once God's involved, it might not be on your schedule, but something's going to happen, right?
Yeah,
if we keep listening.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
I know before I've said, even I think on episodes of this podcast, something I don't want to. I hear him, but I don't want to listen. I don't want to. I don't like what he's telling me. You know, that sounds like I might have to do something.
That's right. That's right.
So, all right. So this and that's extremely helpful, and I appreciate that background, because that does help give some context to what you're doing. And then the other thing that's interesting. We're in I shouldn't say little old, but it's little old Gaston County, North Carolina, and you guys are impacting a much broader, bigger scope than what you might think is going on here in Gaston County. And I also and I'm involved with Rotary.
Mm-hmm.
I have been for 24 years almost now. And I've been lucky enough to be involved with an international project. But also I give to the foundation, Rotary Foundation, every year, but I do not know where that money goes and what is being done.
Sure.
Specifically.
Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we get stories and information, and there's a great magazine, and so we see things that Rotary is doing, but I don't specifically know what my donation did.
Right.
So that's just a great concept. So you mentioned a couple things already, but can you talk about just what are some of the projects, initiatives? I'm not sure the best wording for that. Can y'all kind of just, I'm sure we don't have 5 or 6 hours to talk about everything you guys are doing.
We won't go 5 or 6 hours.
But you know what I mean? I think that's really what people want to hear is what are some of the impacts and projects, initiatives, things that you guys are doing or have done?
Before I do that, could I dovetail onto something that you
Absolutely.
said? So I just wanted to say, we love local charities. Absolutely love them. And we love working with them. We work with several of them, or have worked with several of them around.
And I saw some on the website. Shining Hope Farms was one.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've been on the podcast.
We actually
have
we have one going on right now, don't we? With
Shining
veterans.
Hope, veteran
we're helping
program.
on the veteran program.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to mention to you that a lot of donors they restrict their giving because you can't understand what happens across the world, right? When you give to an organization that's working in Cambodia, a lot of times you don't get that word out of the field. And I think the ability to do that, the ability to engage in overseas, opens up your horizon. It helps you understand the cultures, and particularly for us. Literally, we go in, we're taking videos of tribal celebrations where dancers are dancing. You can see what it's like to be there. The only thing I can't bring back is the smells. I can't bring back the smells, but the visual is so good, and so I think that's kind of a really cool thing that aspect of Mite. And I'm going to roll into what you asked about. The other cool thing, and I'm going to let you go after this, but the other cool thing that is really cool about Mite is we don't work with large organizations. We don't work with the big guys because they don't want to work with us. First of all, they don't need us. And second of all, we don't get the access that we need. We have to provide that access to our donors. If we don't do that video, we fail. And so we always going in field. So what's great about that is working with grassroots people. Mite has brought up to me more humanitarian and evangelical outreach concepts and types than I never knew that people were doing the things that they were doing, and it's just awesome to see it. Like one of the ones that I really point out is prosthetic legs. Work with an organization called Stand. We're actually working with them right now. Another one we're working with in Ghana, the Gambia.
The Gambia.
This organization recycles prosthetic legs from the UK. Legs that would have ended up in the landfill. They take those legs, they pack them in containers, and they ship them to sub-Saharan Africa. In sub-Saharan Africa, they have partners that refit those legs and repurpose them for people who could not afford to have the legs. So young kids, adults, they get arms, legs, all of these things. And it's cost $16.50.
It's insane.
And so you're exposed to that, and you're like, holy cow! I mean, and I never knew it was going on. And this is the kind of thing that Mike gets involved with. So now I'm going to go to you. What kind of projects are we doing?
Well, I think we're on our 65th, but we do try to pick.
Yeah. Just your 65th?
Yes, our 65th, thank the Lord. But we do try to pick pretty innovative, cool partners who are doing really incredible projects. So Stand, or formerly Legs for Africa, is a great example with the prosthetic legs. We've, of course, worked with water organizations, Life Water, who I think just merged with Water for Good, building wells and implementing wash programs where people actually become more hygienic and sanitary to prevent illnesses. We've done book bags of blessings in Indonesia, Nicaragua.
School supplies for kids that couldn't go to school otherwise.
With devotionals from the Mailbox Club inside. I mean, we've done menstrual education and sustainable pads for girls in Nepal and Kenya who would not go to school. And we've learned some crazy things about how girls will be stopped on the side of the road by bodas, which are motorcycle taxis. And because the men know that the girls can't go to school and they're on their periods, they'll ask them to exchange. I don't want you to get demonetized or whatever it's called, but they'll ask them to exchange things that's not appropriate in exchange for a box of pads so that the girls can go to school. And what ends up happening is that the girls get pregnant and they have to drop out of school. And all they need is a box of sustainable pads that can last
kind of stuff we take
years.
for granted.
Absolutely.
So, and just to, I'm kind of going off what my dad said, it's just incredible it's incredible what needs are out there that I would have never thought about the need for menstrual health.
So that leads to the next question. How do y'all get connected with these? How do you find out about these things?
Yeah, that's a good question. We research.
Okay. Hey, well, that's
we research.
That's good.
So a ton of what our team does, because we are kind of the middleman between donors who want to see where their money is going and organizations doing incredible work. So we are the middleman between them.
We're the service organization.
Yeah, we're the service organization. Okay. And so a lot of what our team does is research and vet other organizations. And so we may look in a country, for example, Kenya, and look for a specific need. The Gambia or Ghana, look for a specific need and find that there are people that lose their limbs all the time. And, there happens to be an organization that's from the UK that provides prosthetic limbs. But a lot of it really just comes from researching and from word of mouth. We now, thankfully, and I love it when this happens, but we have donors who recommend organizations. And we'll end up partnering with them that way.
Now, one qualifier, our vetting process is thorough. It's about a 3 to 6 month process. About 8 out of every 100 organizations we can work with. And there's different reasons why, but just understand that a recommendation or we find someone does not automatically mean we work with them.
Yeah.
So it's you're helping. Is it fair to say you're helping vetting organizations to make sure this is what they say is happening is what's happening?
Yes.
Yeah, for the and that's to the donor's benefit, but it's also one of the key things to understand about Mite is that we guarantee your Mite. And what I mean by that is that if you give to a project and we fail, whether the organization doesn't do what they said they do, or we don't deliver the level of service that Mite is known for delivering, if we fail, we will contact you and say, hey, can we move your donation to another project? That way we guarantee the impact that individual was to make. We've only run into one time. We did some assistance to Hurricane Harvey in Houston, and unfortunately they wouldn't let us. We got water over there. They distributed it, but they wouldn't allow us to go in and video due to legal constraints. And so we actually accomplished the mission, but we failed for our donors. And that's really important to understand too. I'm sorry I'm jumping all over, but but these are all good things to understand. We do these projects, but these projects are a byproduct of us doing what we do, and that's serving donors. Our heart is really for the donor. It is to the donor. We want the donor to experience this because we know that the joy of giving is something, it's good for us. God
Oh, yeah.
made this. God
Yeah.
made this good for us. And so we want people to enjoy that. Not only people who are already generous, but people who feel buried, feel.
It's okay. It's okay to feel good about helping others.
It is, and it's
So
okay.
sometimes it feels like there's this pressure. Not. I don't know. It's a strange. I don't know. You can't have fun while you're helping others or something. I don't know.
Well, I think that there's a misinterpretation of what Jesus says about don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to go out there and blow your horn and toot and gloat over it, you're not giving. But if you're giving, God's not trying to keep it secret.
What's the intent? Yeah, what's your intent and what you're trying to accomplish?
The heart of it all, absolutely.
Exactly.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Well, I could go a lot of different stories. So, I mean, you shared some stories there. Well, let me ask the question I like to ask. Is there, you shared some general things that you guys are doing. What I mean by that is there a very specific story or a family you've seen impacted, an individual impacted, well, obviously without sharing any specifics necessarily, but something that comes to mind like, wow, that's the reason that we started this, or that's the reason that we do this. Something very specific besides kind of what you shared.
I think you share the donor side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share the project side.
Okay.
Because there's two sides to my.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And I'll be quick about it. But my wife and I just recently got back from Pakistan earlier in the summer. Little bit of fear and trepidation going into that. I didn't know much about Pakistan, didn't know much about the people. I hadn't been there before. We went in and we were helping out children who have clubfoot. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with clubfoot, but it's a congenital disease that essentially creates a deformity that prevents walking. Eventually, your feet turn in and up, and your legs bend in, and you're crippled. The treatment was actually developed here in the United States, but we worked with an organization called Miracle Feet, who has designed the most fabulous solution in a brace that is just amazing. I can't say enough about this.
He was so impressed.
I was absolutely unbelievable.
I thought he was going to leave Mite and go to Miracle Feet when he came home.
These guys took the problem and absolutely solved it, and they didn't stop at the brace. They also went through the whole process of, treating the patients, because these people in Pakistan make $5 a day. And this is a process that takes 3 years. For the first 7 weeks, you got to show up daily or not daily, you got to show up every week at a clinic for them to cast. So they're recasting. Some of these guys live hundreds of kilometers away and have to use public transportation. Miracle Feet figured out a way to cover the transportation so that wouldn't be a burden on them. So it's just an amazing organization. I got sidetracked as I usually do, but so we went over there, and working with this awesome organization, we drove to different areas of Pakistan and visited these clinics. And just to give you a personal story, the last day that we were there, we were sitting in a hospital. It was just outside of Islamabad. And big hospital, and they had two floors of their clinics was dedicated to clubfoot. I should mention this. They can treat this without invasive surgery. So they reform the foot, they stretch it out, they stretch out your ligaments and everything and your tendons, and they cast, and they do this over a period of time, and then they put the child into a brace, and that child has to remain in that brace for 3 years with decreasing number of hours per day all the way throughout. But they have to go 3 years. If they don't go 3 years, they revert back.
And return.
Yeah. So we're in this hospital. It was the last, we were doing interviews. We did individual interviews with families. They brought their children in. It was 115 degrees outside.
I wasn't there, but it was hot.
the only room in the place that was not exposed to a lot of noise was this little corner quote unquote office that had a window in it and this old rickety fan of clankety 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 clank. And so we had our videographer sets up in this thing, and we bring in these young parents of these children, and the children And these are mostly infants. They can't talk, so the parents are doing most of the talk. And the videographer's like, okay, we have to shut off the fan. So as soon as you shut off the fan, it goes up to 125 degrees. It's just like, and I sweat, but I was just pooling sweat on the floor underneath me. It was amazingly hot. The last couple that it was a young couple, probably mid-30s, maybe 40. They had their child there. The woman was completely dressed in black, full on, with just the eye slit, and the gentleman was dressed in his traditional garb, had a wonderful beard, fantastic eyes. I remember his eyes were just...
They outrivaled, all the men there outrivaled my dad with the beard.
Yeah, oh man, they had beards beyond. At any rate, so we're sitting there and we're talking to them, Muslims, Christian. We're talking about their children, and he's sharing, and the man mostly talked. I don't think the woman said a thing. But the man mostly talked, and it was... He expressed, he was just saying the difference that it made to them and how grateful he was and so forth. And we get done with the interview, and literally I wanted to just run out the door. I just literally just wanted to run because it was so hot. But he goes, can I, we're packing up, and he goes, can I say something? And we said, yeah. Now he's talking in his language, so we're getting an interpreter. We said, yes, sure. And this man... he's stoic. It just seemed to be just a hard kind of guy. He starts just breaking down, and he goes, I just want you to know that you are angels sent from God. And I immediately, when I hear that, I'm like, no, listen, you don't know. No, there are people in the United States. He's like, no, don't interrupt me. I want you to know you are angels sent by God because you have changed my family's life. Without you, we would have been done. And when you hear that, and we don't even share the same religion, but in that moment, I was like, this is
same humanity.
This is what God does. Yeah. This is what charity is about, right?
Yeah.
It's about seeing this between two guys like that.
Yeah.
So that's my personal story.
With two very different backgrounds.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But both had children. So understand what that means.
Yeah,
dads can connect.
Yes.
Oh, yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely the recipient side. I think from the donor side, which as we've stated multiple times before, we are a service to donors. We treat, a lot of people will say this in the nonprofit world, when it comes to fundraising and raising money, it's more of a relational thing. And that's something that my dad and I have really had to learn and are still learning. But we've really tried to adopt that mentality that you aren't necessarily raising money. We are wanting to invite people in to experience the watermelon story for the rest of their lives and to build a legacy, even when they may only be able to give $10, a month sometimes. So we have this one story. It's great. It's about a young couple in Pennsylvania. We were just up there about 4 months ago. I won't give too many details, but they're very young, newly married, about my age. They're about 26. And they had given a couple what would be considered larger gifts for people in their 20s. Just bought a home, was redoing it. And we had dinner with them. We presented them our plans over the next 12 months, and we essentially invited them to take part in it. And of course, my dad and I going into these meetings, we have an idea based on what the individuals gave in the past, what they may say they can give. But of course, the Lord has incredible plans and plans beyond what we can imagine. And so we sat there and we had gotten to the last page, and there's this coin based on the widow's mite, and it shows levels of what you can give to, the whole thing. And I hadn't even finished stating, where do you guys have an idea of where you would fall on this coin if you were to get involved, before the wife interrupted and said, I know where we're supposed to give. And she kind of looked over at her husband, who was across the table, and he kind of smiled and looked at her and looked at the coin, and he was like, you do? And she was like, yes, I know.
Is he getting ready to get that husband surprise? Like, oh boy.
Oh, here we go.
So I think before she even said where she even pointed to where they ended up giving, which was blew our mind. We could not believe it.
26 years old.
I mean, literally blew our mind.
We were completely silent, just staring at one another like
we didn't even know what to say.
Yeah, don't mess it up by
But
speaking.
this, it wasn't even that. This was the most beautiful thing. I don't know if it was before or after she pointed to the coin and where they were going to give. She looked across at her husband, and over the next 10 minutes, she gave the most beautiful testimony of how her husband, after getting married, has taught her how to live with open hands like Christ did, and how to sacrificially give, and how it's literally opened up opportunities in their life and in their relationship. And he just sat there and just listened to it. And I mean, you're tearing up. I was literally crying at the table. It was the sweetest thing.
He's that husband giving all of us, the rest of us, a bad name. Gee whiz.
But this is the wonderful thing. This is the whole donor service part of it.
Yes.
That was incredible. And after that meeting, my dad and I went outside into the parking lot. It was a really gorgeous sunset. And we sat on a bench.
Park bench, yeah.
And we were just like looking at each other and looking at the sunset and saying like, thank you, Lord.
Yeah, what just happened?
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. We realized in that moment, I mean, you have opportunities. It's kind of like I realized the watermelon story. I realized it over again when I was sitting across from the guy from Pakistan. But I realized it again when I'm sitting on a park bench outside thinking, man, this is what it's about. This is
Also, though, I would, obviously we've just met today.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm going to bet that the organization, you guys, you also are probably looking for those things more than others. Or you're
sensitive to them?
Maybe that's a better way to put it. I'm afraid most people, we just go through our lives and God might be trying to hit us or talk to us or touch us, and we're just not paying attention.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
I pray that I become more sensitive to it, because I'm telling you,
Of course, we also don't want it to become something that's just normal either, right? We don't,
Right.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think you do have to be aware and open to it.
Yeah.
You have to listen in.
I agree. Can we just stop the podcast now after that?
I know, I'm sorry.
The rest of these questions are just lame now after that. So I would, again, to be clear, I've spent some time on the website yesterday, and so I know that we could talk about the other 64 initiatives or projects that you've talked about. But I would encourage our listeners to go check it out, because it is worth some time to spend there. So, kind of a question that we'd like to ask is kind of now looking ahead. I mean, that classic question is 5 to 10 years. I don't know, like in the business world, we don't even look that far in advance anymore. Things change so fast. And we might look ahead 3 years.
Yeah, maybe.
We used to try to do these 10-year plans, and everything changes so quickly. But what's your visions for Mite going forward, and anything that y'all can share there, or is it just continuing to try to impact as many people as possible?
Do you want to talk?
You're the executive director.
I know. I'm looking to you. What's going to happen?
I think to give you guys some ideas, we were so focused on our projects and building out this project process that we've mentioned a few times. Mite's been around now for 7 years. In the first 4 to 5 years, we were so focused on it that I think we almost lost focus on our mission.
Yeah.
And so really, God did some hard work on us over the last year and a half and refined it. So when I look to the next 3 years, I think it's going to be just really honing in on this donor experience, but also getting the word out there that we truly believe that giving should be better than what it currently is today. Mm-hmm. And that it should not be a rare thing for an organization to take out a 20-year-old who's giving $15 a month and tell them that they're thankful for their giving and that they want to be with them through this journey of generosity over the next, 60 years that they may have here on earth to make a difference. So I can see Mite over the next 3 years, I can see that being our vision, and the road that we take is just really refining this donor service side of what we're doing.
Is it also true that your donors are international as well? It's everywhere, or is it focused here in the States, or?
Our donor base is mainly in the States.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a few donors who give from outside the states, but it's mostly within the states. And I'll just piggyback on Madison's statement. We practically speaking, we got to get the word out about Mite. And more.
That's why we
like
love
this.
these opportunities.
Yeah, like opportunities like this.
Well, we know at least 3 more people are going to know about you after this.
That's perfect.
Come on now. So,
my mom, my wife, and
well, 3 more people is fantastic.
Well, we'll take it.
We'll take it. But doing things like we have corporate giving programs where we serve corporations as groups of people. Those types of things are going to spread the word. Opportunities like this, opportunities to coordinate with other organizations to discuss charity. I think we've got charity all wrong. We now equate charity with nonprofit organizations and man helping man. We're missing the point. Charity is God's. It's a part of God. It's a part of his character, and he created it to work with us, and it's an honor for us to be involved in what he has going on. I think we need to get back to that. That's a redemption of the meaning of charity. That's a hope for us. I can't say it's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's our vision, right? Our vision is to make giving better, and what that means to us is we take the statement, Jesus said, better to give than receive. Right now, I don't think that we think that. Right now, I think that in popular culture, it's even better to take than it is to give. That's wrong, and it's based on a misunderstanding of charity. So we've got to decrease the skepticism that people have towards charities. Right now, at 48%, people aren't going to give to people if they don't trust them. And if you are a charity, I don't trust you. That's not right. There's not. Yeah. And so we've got to get over that. That we're going to be working on that. And as Madison was saying, with the main purpose, we've built a good foundation. We can execute on this. It's scalable. We know we can do this with thousands of people or thousands of donors. We can support them. Now it's about getting that translated into people understanding that this is something that is a reality. You can know where your gift goes. We can show you videos. You can be engaged at a level that you've never been engaged with your donation.
And charity doesn't have to be boring or
or
not
unknown,
joyful, like you were stating.
Yeah.
Like you can actually be excited when you give places, and you can even want to share it with some people. Like I've just thought about how like nobody really even talks about where they give. Isn't that really interesting?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, anyway, did we answer that question?
Yes, you did. You did.
We said a lot of stuff.
Not that I could interpret any answer anyway, but no, that's good. So, you guys have shared a lot. It's great stuff. Is there anything that I haven't asked that I should have asked? I mean, obviously, before we finish, we'll make sure our listeners know how to find more information out, how to contact you guys, what your greatest needs are currently, if there are any. But anything I haven't asked that I should have asked before we shift gears slightly?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of bases.
Yeah, we have.
No, it's been great.
Those were good questions.
It's been good. So something we make our guests endure is these Gaston County related questions. And you both have been here long enough.
Yes.
Now your family's been here long enough, so you can't deny that these might be important. And we're going to call this the. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. She knows me.
Yeah.
This is going to be the mighty round
of
Gaston County questions.
There you go.
Okay. So, Madison, I'll let you get first shot at most of these, so because your dad might need to think about them longer than you.
I do, absolutely.
Oh goodness, I'm nervous.
You ever been to Tony's Ice Cream?
I have.
What's your favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
Well, chocolate is my favorite flavor everywhere, so.
Well, mine too. So that's the correct answer.
Chocolate
Scott?
shake
Yes.
with the scoop on top.
Yes.
Fantastic invention.
Okay. How about Sundrop or Cheerwine?
Yeah, I don't like either of those.
Oh boy.
Coca-Cola.
All right, wait, you just
Or
got kicked out of
Starbucks.
Gaston County.
Coca-Cola.
Starbucks espresso.
Yeah, or Starbucks espresso.
I mean, Coke's a good answer. I mean, I'm a Coke or Dr Pepper guy, but they're local, so that's why Sundrop and Cheerwine or
Yeah, they're
Oh.
local. Yeah, you got to.
It's fine.
Oh,
you gotta-
goodness.
You actually have.
It's not
you
if you don't
actually-
want to support Gaston County. That's fine.
This is only.
Cut,
this is only
cut this
Gaston
part
great.
out.
This is only Gaston's great. I mean, it's
Yeah.
nothing.
How about you?
Cheer
Scott?
wine, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that's what you
How
were
about
gonna
favorite
say.
local restaurant?
You
can't say anything in Charlotte.
Well, I can say Belmont, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's in Gaston County.
Yes.
The Everyday Market I love,
Okay. Yeah.
or the String Bean.
Yeah,
Which
string bean.
you may get a lot of string bean.
Yeah, string bean's good.
I like
It's-
string
yeah,
bean.
we've had that answer several times.
So in Gastonia, it's Webb's.
Yeah, Webb's is
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Out in Stanley, I like the Woodshed.
Oh, wow, yeah. I
And-
don't think we've had that answer yet. Yeah.
And in Belmont, I like the Bottle Tree.
What about? Oh, the Bottle Tree is good. What about that new place with the guy? Sorry, the not Peruvian place. The place that Hope takes us.
Oh yeah, that man.
We've got to give these guys a shout out. It is such a good restaurant.
It's in Gaston. It's in Gastonia. It's in South Gastonia, and they've got a.
Well, we'll look it up later.
Okay.
It is so
That's very
good.
helpful for our listeners.
I know. I don't even think it's not Peruvian.
No,
They're
just do your
from-
thing.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a question I ask every episode, and occasionally this question means nothing to our guest, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Especially somebody that sound like you studied in Barcelona, which is a little different. It's a little unique. But the question is always UNC, Duke, or NC State?
NC State. Yay, I get the cheering.
Did you take the hint?
Yes, I
I
did.
see that.
I wasn't even sure which one to say.
Well, you chose
I think he would probably say NC State, no?
What's that?
What would you say?
UNC, Duke, or NC State?
All right, so I gotta be diplomatic here. So I have a daughter who we sent to Chapel Hill, so NC on that side.
That's too
I
bad.
am partial to NC State because it's a nice school and
Yeah.
it puts out quality people.
Of course.
I
mean,
don't have any connection outside of y'all to it necessarily.
yeah.
My cardiologist is from Duke, so I gotta pull that too. So there you go.
So that was.
So I got all three.
So that was a very
Wow.
diplomatic.
That was extremely
I
diplomatic.
mean, we are in an election cycle right now, a couple weeks away. So, matter of fact, it's 2 weeks from today.
I'm not running.
No, yesterday.
Wow.
I'm not running, so we're all
Well,
good.
my daughter is a freshman at NC State, and my wife went to Chapel Hill. So
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
You got
okay.
split. You got split.
our kids are very confused. So, Madison, what is something very few people know about you?
Well, I think I gave it away. I studied in Spain, did my undergrad there.
So you're going to stick with that?
I
I mean, that's relatively unique. I can assure you, we've never had that answer on Gaston's Great. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think-
it might be
I
hard
think
to top
that one.
that. Okay,
Yeah.
Scott, what about you?
Uh,
Any way to answer that on a family-friendly
I don't know.
podcast?
I know. Yeah, I'm trying to
wasn't
figure out something I
wasn't
could
your
say.
first job weird?
No.
No.
I drink my coffee with honey and butter.
Isn't that weird?
Actually, I listen to some podcasts where they talk about butter in coffee all the time. What's the name of that brand? I'm going to pull the restaurant thing. I can't remember the name of that brand that I'm talking about. It's they even recommend that Irish Kerrygold butter that's supposed to be so.
Oh, Kerrygold is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is very good.
I found the restaurant, by the way, Constantine's.
Constantine's.
It is so delicious. And the
Fun
people
guys.
working there are really nice.
Fun
Okay,
guys.
so where is it exactly? Because I'm afraid I'm not familiar with
South New Hope.
that. Okay.
Yep, South New Hope. It's down there
Wow.
near Garrison. Is it
Okay.
Garrison down there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be.
It's new.
All right, excellent. Well, that's good. So, how about a book or blog or article or another podcast or something you might recommend to our listeners?
I was actually just writing an email to someone the other day, and I recommended the book The Power of Moments
Okay.
by Chip Heath.
Yep. Yeah,
We've read it.
One of the Heath brothers. Yeah, they've written
Yeah.
multiple books. Yeah.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you can find it on my bookshelf in my office.
The Power of Moments.
Yeah,
It's a great read.
it is.
I think you recommended it, or maybe I recommended
We actually
it to
give
you.
it to all our new employees.
We do.
Oh, wow, that's good.
It's a great read for customer service and just
We love the celebration
Yeah.
part of that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just recognizing those opportunities. to
That's
do
why I
that.
asked Madison first, so you'd have to come up with something different.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
You can't use that
he
one.
reads a lot, so
The
this shouldn't
Bible.
be hard.
Bible's
Well,
my
that's-
recommended book.
Um,
I'm going to cheat. How about that? I'm
yeah.
going to cheat.
I think we've said before that. I think I've even said besides the Bible.
Yeah, come on.
Come on. Well, if you like conspiracies, try the Sean Ryan show.
Okay,
I mean,
the podcast.
Yeah, they get
Okay.
into a lot of deep conspiracy stuff.
Interesting. Didn't think he was
Oh,
going
I'm
to say
writing.
that.
I'm writing that one down. Well, maybe.
There's also
I think
you
he's
were
an
reading.
I think he's an ex-SEAL, so they do. A lot
Oh,
of-
okay.
They do a lot of in the military.
Weren't you
stuff.
reading?
I'm a big
treat
Jocko
treat him like a
Willink fan.
customer.
I did. By Lewis Upkins. The most recent book I read was by Lewis Upkins. It's called Treat Me Like a Customer.
Okay.
Talks about how husbands can treat their families similar to the way that they treat a customer. So you gotta get more into the book to understand the concept behind that. But it's got some good stuff in it.
Because I appreciate that because I'm always reading. I'm always looking for something else to some other place to learn. I'm reading on leadership, customers, spiritual, whatever. I mean, there's so many different. I mean, in fact, they get tired of hearing me talk about books and podcasts and stuff here at GSM. I'm always trying to share
All day.
Yeah. So listen, I appreciate you guys indulging us on those questions. So just a couple more questions and we'll finish up. So just remembering that this is a podcast about Gaston County in general, but we do spread out to some other areas as well, and obviously you guys do as well. However, besides Mite, start with you, Madison. Why would you say Gaston County in general is such a great place?
Well, I'm going to talk about Belmont because that's the one that I'm most familiar with.
When I say Gaston, I'm talking about Gaston County.
Yeah. So Belmont I love because, well, my dad has been there for years and years, so I remember it whenever it didn't look the way it looks
Sure.
currently. But I love watching it grow. I think that it's a more peaceful, I want to say even friendlier city compared to, or town compared to Charlotte. And so I
Okay.
like getting away and
Well,
going to
Charlotte
Belmont.
is the gateway to Gastonia.
Yeah.
You weren't aware of that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Is that
So
it?
that's my answer.
Okay, that's
Okay.
great. Scott, how would
So
you
my
that?
answer would be, and I've worked here. Gaston County is, I guess, a deep part of my life. My brother and I have really honored and wanted to honor the history here. I personally think that Gaston County is a true blessing to the state of North Carolina. I mean, for this region, Gaston County has meant so much. Textiles, unbelievable. And we've been fortunate enough to buy some of the old mills, and the history in those mills is just amazing. The
Right.
entrepreneurship, the industrial heart that goes behind that, the work that goes into it. We still have people show up at our mills and say, "Hey, my grandfather worked here. Can
Wow.
I walk around?" So much of that, and thank goodness some of it's saved, right?
Sure.
Thank goodness some of it is here, because a lot of it has been destroyed. But people don't understand the Industrial Revolution that happened in Gaston County that supported the creation of Charlotte.
Oh, sure.
The banking system over there was built off of the textile business over here, and some of the things that they did, some of the inventions, air conditioning,
Yeah.
invented by Kramer. You had the first fully indoor lit production facility in Gastonia. You had the first fully air-conditioned facility in Belmont at Chronicle Mill. khaki was invented
Yes.
by Kramer.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
Khaki.
So there's so
He was supplying the army, the military.
exactly right. They had generals. I think Eisenhower flew in and landed on a
Somebody
on a
did. I don't
float plane.
remember who, but somebody sure did. I remember that.
Yeah. So all kinds of
Yeah.
wonderful history. And so, but then above that, I would say, and again, I've been around Gaston County people for quite a bit and all over Gaston. I think that there's a unique kindness to the Gaston people. There's a richness in the heritage, and there's a family aspect to it. Even for an outsider like me, I'm almost an insider, but even for an outsider like me, and I think that's a value that now people in the more urban areas are beginning to realize that they want to experience, that they want to raise their kids in that environment. And so in terms of value that Gaston County brings, I think it's only we haven't scratched the surface yet for what.
Yeah, I think we're just hitting our stride, so to speak.
We are, yeah.
So again, I appreciate that, and I agree. I'm a total Gaston County homer. Totally unbiased opinion about Gaston County. So, but I do appreciate you sharing that. So, I'm gonna ask this next question, and Madison, for you, I'm not sure. I'm gonna ask you anyway. So, Scott's gonna have a longer experience for this question, but knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self? Was that like 2 years ago?
Well, I'm 27, so I'm still in my 20s.
So it's further.
But 20-year-old self, 20.
Yeah, not 20. Not when you were 7. Not 20 years ago. But 20-year-old self.
I think it would be to not determine what you're going to do based on your age or what you can do. So don't, there's a verse in the Bible, this is another thing that I can't remember it.
Don't let them look down on your youth.
Yeah, that one.
Paul to Timothy, yeah.
And so I think it would be that. Probably
Is this what
just
you have to live with all the time?
basically. But he's like my Google, so it works.
That's great.
Yeah.
Naomi's the most faithful person I think I may have ever met. So she's the same way.
Good.
Yeah. So that's what I would say.
Oh, that's terrific. Yeah, I think we put limitations on ourselves, and we're not ready, or I'm not equipped or
Experienced enough.
or old enough.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a silly thing, especially today. I mean, yeah. My kids have taught me quite a bit. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. Scott, how would you answer that?
They teach you a whole bunch.
Yeah, absolutely.
So first of all, I have to qualify it and say that my 22-year-old self would probably not take any advice from me. So you know what it's like.
Fair
when you're
enough.
20 years old.
Yeah.
But I would have several things to say. I would definitely say, enjoy every moment. Don't rush through life. Don't be looking for the next thing so hard that you overlook what you got and where you're at. That's really, really important. I'd tell my kids that today. I do. Well, I would. I don't know if I have, but yeah, I would.
I think you do.
But love your wife more.
That's a great one.
She is. Yeah. You really like that one.
We'll
New
make
wife.
sure to show this to you, Mama.
So I mean, I don't think that we as husbands understand the value.
It's a blessing. Yes.
Oh, it's a huge blessing, and so I would put that in there. Read the Bible every single day. Don't miss days. Don't have long droughts, which I have had in my own life.
Yeah,
I read it every day.
And I'm not. It sounds strange to talk about technology and scripture, but gosh, there's so many. There's no excuse. I mean, because I'm reading 3 things daily. I mean, but 2 of them are on my phone or iPad.
Right.
But the other one is a devotional that I read.
Right.
That's spiritually based. And so, I mean, it's right there. It's access. You have access to it all the time. And you can even, if there's something you're struggling with, you can even just give me what does Jesus say? What does God say about this?
Yes.
And you can find it. So,
yeah. That's the good side of technology.
The instruction book, the good side of technology. Yeah, that's a great. That's a great
And we
point
should,
because
and we should utilize it.
Yeah.
Because you're exactly right.
because it's not all bad, even though I talk about it being all bad around here, especially for us old guys.
Yes.
So, all right, listen, guys, I appreciate you sharing that. This has been really great. And again, just remember, the whole point of this is to bring awareness to your organization. Maybe there's somebody listening who's like, wow, I want to know, I want to find out more. I want to get involved, or whatever the case may be. So where can listeners go to learn more, contact you guys, anything and everything you can share?
Mite.org, MITE.org. They can go there.
We're located right over in Belmont on East Catawba Boulevard. We're in the old National Mills plant.
Okay.
If you go there, 710 East Catawba Street, my dad will give you a tour of his mill. You'll get the Mite experience and
whether
the tour.
you want it or not.
Yeah,
right?
whether you want it
Yeah,
or not,
yeah.
and you'll hear all the history.
What about Facebook and that type of stuff? Aren't you on social media as well?
We are. So all of our social media is at Mite Organization.
Okay.
Yep.
What about any current needs or anything specific, or is it just get people to the website and then let them go from there?
I mean, we would love to have people join.
Okay.
We'd love for people to try it out and see what they think, honestly, about the donor experience. My dad mentioned the corporate giving program.
Yeah, business owners if they want to partner with us, we have an excellent program for their employees and for them.
Yeah.
So
Just get involved.
All right.
any opportunities
Very
to
good.
talk to people, any churches, any youth groups, whatever, we're happy to do that as well.
Yeah.
What about Rotary Club? You ever talk to any civic organizations around here, or?
We have talked to one, but not around here. It was up in Ohio, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, the model that we've built for the corporate giving program can be used for literally any other organization with a team of people.
Cool.
And we've seen some great responses from
And
it,
also
so.
just getting the message out as
Yeah,
well.
just coming
Just
to
the
it because
mission.
we have, I'm rotating. We have programs every week, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
so there'll be opportunity to speak to 50, 60 business owners and local community.
We won't say no.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't say no. We
Well,
don't
listen,
say no.
we've got your contact information. I might shoot it out to our program,
All right,
program
thank
person.
you.
Thank you.
So, any last words before we close this episode out?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for having us.
Well, you're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. Appreciate it.
And we
you
typically do have more than 3 listeners.
You guys are very professional.
Well,
Yeah, you
there
are.
Yeah, so I
Thank you.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed the free flow of conversation too. Thanks for letting us share about something that we're passionate about.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that comes across. It's
Yeah.
obvious.
We love it, and we love talking about it. So thank you guys for doing this. I got to listen to some of the other episodes, so it was cool.
So you
I
knew
learned
beforehand
about-
how unprofessional it was.
No, I knew beforehand how relaxed it was going to be and how much we were going to enjoy it. So
Well, don't go listen to the first 10.
I didn't scroll all that way, all that far back.
We didn't go all the way back there.
Yeah,
So
the uhs and the whats and the yes and the we weren't videoing those
that's
either.
being human.
We didn't start video until I think episode 51. So
Okay.
I'm not sure why we started videoing them. But actually, it's shocking how many people watch on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not shocking. It makes complete sense.
All right. So, guys, listen, I appreciate it greatly. And I appreciate the work you're doing. And it's, if nothing else, it's unique.
Mm-hmm.
And
very
that's
unique.
why it's so intriguing. And when I did my little bit of research, I was like, wow, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So I appreciate that. So I'm going to end like I normally do with my own book recommendation and a quote for the week. And a book I just recently read. I think I've mentioned a couple times here that I've kind of started studying Stoicism, which is just kind of I don't know where that came from, probably Jocko Willink or one of these other things I get involved with. But Ryan Holiday is kind of the guy. One of my devotionals is The Daily Stoic, but he wrote a great book called The Obstacle is the Way. And basically it means, it's about sometimes what you think is going to prevent you from doing something might actually end up helping you grow a little bit. And so we oftentimes want things to get in the way. That get in the way are a problem, and sometimes they turn out not to be.
Mm.
Yeah.
And my quote for the week is kind of related, but it comes from Beverly Sills, who said, "There is no shortcut to any place worth going." I wish that wasn't true, but I'm afraid it is true, right?
Very.
Sometimes these quotes will just smack me on the face. You know,
Yeah.
I'll be in the middle of something, like, yeah, I don't want that one. It's kind of like what I said earlier about, sometimes God's talking to me, I don't want to listen.
Yeah.
Are these quotes also sent out to the team? Like daily quotes? Oh.
Actually, yeah, it was a few weeks ago. I send one out to the company every Monday to the whole
okay.
to the whole company with a little
Okay.
with a little blurb or
Yeah, I like that.
In my vast wisdom.
Oh,
that's good.
We're coming apart here.
All right, so let's cut this one short if we can, because we're already over an hour.
Yes.
So, to our listeners, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. And please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast, or email us at our email address, which is podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We are always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, Gaston'sGreat.com, or anywhere you find podcast. And thanks again to Madison and Scott. I told you I could mess up the ending. I've read it 1,000 times. Thanks again to Madison and Scott for being our guests today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Amy Anderson and Naomi Hunt from GSM Services. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.